Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're just starting with DaVinci Resolve, this is a complete beginner's guide on how you can use DaVinci Resolve, all the fundamentals, workflow, and everything you need to know about it. I'm starting out with how you can get DaVinci Resolve. You can go to Blackmagic Design and you can either download the free version or the paid one, which is the studio one. And if you're a complete beginner, I recommend you starting with the free one, just to get a feel what is DaVinci Resolve capable of. And if some point you want to upgrade it, you can pay one time $300 and it's a lifetime use. Now let's double click on DaVinci Resolve icon and let's see what we're having. What you're seeing right now is my last projects, but you're not gonna see that. You're gonna see just the first one, which is gonna be Untitled Project, which is gonna be your first project. And to get started, you want to highlight it and then go to the bottom right and click open, or either you can select new project and create a new project, which is the same. I'm gonna click open and now we're ready to go. And this is the first look that you're about to see when you open DaVinci Resolve after creating your project. And before we start explaining anything, we want to make sure that our timeline settings is fitting our needs. You want to click this toggle on the bottom right and this will open. On first is the master settings, on which you can establish your production resolution, also known as timeline resolution. You can pick any of the formats and begin. I'm usually setting mine on HD 920 to 1080. Below that you can turn on or off your vertical resolution, and the vertical resolution is a format that is supported by TikTok, Instagram Reels or Shorts in YouTube. Below that it's the time frame rate. You can pick your frames, also known as FPS. Frames per second. Below the timeline frame rate, you can have your playback frame rate, and there are much more options in there, but I'm gonna cover just that since this is a beginner's guide. On the lower side of DaVinci, you're gonna see these 7 tabs. When I click on the first one, you can see that this tab is called Media, and this is a tab where you can import your media, audio files, video footages, and so on. You can right click and you can select Import Media, or you can use the shortcut Ctrl+I. Also, you can import your media in other tabs as well, so usually you're not gonna stick around in the media tab. The second tab that we're seeing is the cut tab, is the places that you're making rough cuts over your video footages. In here you can also import your media, and this is also a tab that is not much used in DaVinci Resolve users, so to import a media, just highlight it and then click open. Now we're in the third tab, which is the Edit tab, which is one of the most used tabs in DaVinci Resolve. On the bottom left you can see your media library. Also there you can see the clip that I have just added. In the center of the screen you can see our screen preview. On the bottom side you can see our timeline, where you can add your media. Like if you're having media there, you can grab it, you can hold it and you can drop it over your timeline and it will be applied. Also, you can use this shortcut tool by pressing the plus sign. You can zoom in your timeline. From here you can expand the height of your video footages, and also you can do that for the audio files. You can expand it so you can see the waveforms. In my case the sound is muted, so you're not gonna see any waveforms on the audio channel. To play back your footages you can press this play button, or you can use the space to start and stop. Another thing you can do here is that you can select this blade, which is the razor tool. You can select it and then you can go over your video footage or audio and you can left click on them to make a cuts. Then you can back here to your selective mode. You can highlight it and now you can drag it and you can leave it wherever you want. You can create as much audio and video channels as you want by moving them up and down. And also if you made a mistake or you want to backwards your actions, you can press Ctrl Z and that way you can undo your actions. Other things you can do in the Edit tab is that you can go to Effects, which is right here on the top left. This is your effects library. And you can add some transitions and effects from here. You can expand the box from here. Also you can pull it down from here. Also you can select this downside icon and it will expand even more. That way you can have a better look of your effects and transitions in more expanded way. Now I'm gonna hide it again. And now our first effect is gonna be a transition. This is the toolbox, which is containing everything that is included in the effects library until the open effects, and then you can select what you want. In my case I'm gonna select transitions, and this is a folder where it's containing all the transitions in DaVinci Resolve. Now let's pick a transition, but before that we need to separate our clips in order to make a transitions between the clips. I just did a razor cut between my clip, so now I can add a transition in between. I'm going down in the transition menu and I'm gonna pick one transition. In my case I'm gonna use this drop warp. To apply the transition, you just have to grab it, hold it and leave it over your video footage in between the clips that you want to add this transition. Now you're gonna see this window between your videos, which is your transition. You can play it through so you can see how it's gonna look. It's looking like a water drop or something. To expand the transition, you can extend it by grabbing the windows. Now it's gonna become slower because the transition time is longer. As you can see, that is slower. If you want your transition to go faster, you just have to take it down in size, and now I'm gonna play it through to see that it's gonna happen faster. In this tab you are also having inspector, which is on the top right side. As you see, that is highlighted now. There you can also see this transition that we're having. I'm highlighting this transition box and you can see that I can change the duration just like I did manually on the timeline, but this time I can do it from the inspector. If you also want to reset the default values of this transition, you can click on this clock, which is going backwards, and now you will have the default settings of the transition that you have just added. If you want to disable this transition, you can toggle off this video and the effect drop warp, which you're seeing right there, by clicking in here, also in the upper part of the video here. Now when I play the video, you can see that our transition is not visible, even though we are seeing that is there on the timeline. And if you want even to delete it, you just have to highlight it and press backspace to delete. Simple as that. Now we're gonna add some other effects from the effects library. We're gonna go to title section, we're gonna go to the top of the title section, and I'm gonna select text, for example. This is the most basic way that you can add a text over your footage. Right now I'm highlighting this text that I have just drag it and drop it over my timeline video footage, and there's in the inspector you can type your text there, your message. The first option below that is that you can select the style of your text. DaVinci Resolve is coming with a lot of built-in font styles that you can pick from. Below the font style you can change the font face. Also you can change the size of that text. You can make it larger, you can make it smaller. Don't forget that you can also change the color. You can change the color of your liking as well, depends on your footage and your liking. Right now I'm changing it to green and pressing OK, and now it's applied. I'm going further down and you can also change the position. You can leave it on the left side, on the right, wherever you want. You can also zoom in and zoom out. You can also add some rotations to your text by rotating angle values. Going down below, you can see that you can add a stroke on your text by increasing the size of the stroke values. Also, you can change the color of your stroke of your liking. And if you don't want to have any stroke over your text, you can just reduce the size of stroke back to 0 so that it can disappear, just like this. Below that, you can also add a drop shadow, and you can simply do that by creating the offset XY, and it will be displayed. And offset XY is just adjusting the position of that drop shadow. In the bottom side, you can also increase and decrease the opacity of that drop shadow, and also decrease or increase the amount of blurriness. And lastly, you can add a background of your text so that it can pop up and it could be easier for people to read. You can increase or decrease the weight and the height. You can add a stroke over your background. You can remove it by reducing outline width to 0. Further down, you can correct the height, the radius, the corner, the opacity, and the position overall of your background. Now I'm going to delete this text, and we're gonna add some preset text that DaVinci Resolve have built in. We're going down in the same title panel and we're gonna pick this clean and simple. When I play it through, you can see that there's some animation on this text. It is not steady. But first, let's just go to inspector and change the text that we want to be displayed. I'm gonna type hello and welcome, and now we're gonna play it through to see what is gonna be displayed. I'm gonna hit play. As you can see, that is showing simple text and then hello and welcome on the top. While this preset is highlighted, I'm gonna go again in the inspector and I'm gonna change the big text. There's a place where you can change the small text as well as the big text, and now I'm gonna change the big text, which is the main one in the bottom, which is displayed in the middle of the screen, and I'm gonna type there people. And now I'm gonna play it through once again, and it's gonna show hello and welcome, and then people in the middle. As you can see, that is written on the text inspector. Now let's see it. And you can also change the size and other things about this text. I'm not gonna go much in details since I covered that already. There are many more presets that you can use in DaVinci Resolve, so make sure you explore them yourself. You can also go to generators, and here you can generate some backgrounds. For example, you can use the solid color. I'm gonna grab it, I'm gonna leave it over my timeline, and I can use it as a background. Right now it is mainly default on black, but I'm gonna change the color and I'm gonna leave it greenish, for example. Then I'm gonna select OK, and now example is I'm gonna add a text over it. I'm gonna highlight the text, I'm go to inspector, as you know, I'm gonna change the color of the text to black, and I'm gonna increase the size. And now I have a background with a solid color and text over it. Then we're gonna go to the effects in the effects library by clicking the effects, and now we can choose and add some effects over our footages. Now let's say that we want to add this digital glitch that you're seeing right there. I'm gonna grab it and I'm gonna drop it over the footage that I want to be applied on. Now I'm gonna go back in the timeline and I'm gonna preview the effect that I have just added. I'm gonna press space so that it can play forward. And as you can see, our footage now looks glitchy, just like the effect. So I'm removing that digital glitch and I'm going to open effects, which is below the effects in the effects library. In there you can add some more effects, which is a little bit more advanced. Let's say that we're adding radio blur, a most simple effect. I'm gonna leave it and drop it over my footage. And now we're gonna go to inspector to see what we can do. You can click on the effects, and this is available only if you have already applied an effect over your footage. In there you can increase and decrease the strength of that effect by changing the values of smooth strength. Also you can change the position of that circle which you are seeing, up or down, left and right. And also for this effect you can change the blur type. You can change it from realistic to stylish, and then you can go back to realistic. If you want to delete the effect, you just have to press this bin to delete it. And there are really many more effects that I'm not gonna be able to explore with you today, but you can check them out. Some of them are just in the studio version, so if some error pops in just like this, it means that this effect is only available in the studio version. But I can say that 90% of all the effects that you're having here is available in the free version. Let's go to the audio effects, and this is all about the audio. You can add some effects on the audio as well as you can add it on the video, but these effects in here are specifically for the audio. For example, you can add a flanger, you can add an echo, you can delay it, and things like that. Make sure to explore it. If you want to take down in length your video footages, you can grab the corner and you can pull it to the side. Or if you want to expand it, you can do the same, but just in reverse. Also, if you want to fade in or fade out your video, you can grab this side, you can pull it to the left, and now the video is gonna fade out. I'm gonna preview to see what I mean. It's gonna be slowly disappearing. You can make it faster or slower, as you wish. Now I'm gonna normalize it by pulling it back. And you can also do that for the audio, the same way. You can pull it to the left and now it's gonna fade down, but in the audio you're gonna have this dot which you can also pull it and you can maneuver your fading out even smoother. In a perspective for the audio, it's not gonna fade in the vision, but it's gonna slowly decrease the volume. Just like your video footage, you can use the razor cut to make cuts over your audio, and you can delete the parts of that, and you can adjust the other ones by moving them left and right. Now let's see what other things inspector can do. If you highlight your clip, you can go to inspector and you can see that you can increase and decrease the zoom values if you want to zoom in your video. Also, you can adjust the position. You can change the values of the position to move it left or right. Also, you can change the values of both of them. Let's say I want to be a perspective of the red car. I can zoom in and I can leave it on the right. So now when I play it through, it's gonna be displayed just a red car. Also, you can rotate your footage by changing the values of rotate angle. Also, you can change your pivot point, which is your center. There is a settings for which you can stretch your footage horizontally and vertically. And also you can flip your footage horizontally and vertically as well by pressing these two flip icons next to the flip. Below the flip settings, you're gonna see cropping. You can click it to expand it. You can crop it from the left or right, or you can cut any parts of your video footage. that you don't want to be included in your video. Below that you're having dynamic zoom, which is by default turn it off. You can turn it on, and when you play it through you can see that it's slowly moving out. You can change the direction of the moving by clicking the swap icon, and now it's gonna slowly zooming in the video. Below that you can change the compositive mode, also the opacity of that compositive mode. Also, if your footage is handheld camera, you can stabilize your footage by clicking here on stabilize. You're also having a lens correction and a retiming and scaling options. I'm not gonna dive deep into that since this is a beginner's tutorial. And a really important part of the edit page is these diamonds beside the values of transform. This is what's so called the keyframes. Let's make a simple example of that. Right now my timeline marker is in the beginning, so I'm gonna select this keyframe. It's gonna turn into red. Now I have a keyframe on my first frame. I'm gonna go further in the timeline and I'm gonna change the values of that zoom, which I already selected the keyframe next to it. I'm gonna leave it at values 1.8, and now I'm having two keyframes set it up, going from 1.0 to 1.8. As you can see, now it's slowly zooming in until 1.8. Now if I want to add a third keyframe, I will go in the end of that clip. For example, I'm gonna go again on the zoom values and I'm gonna decrease it back to 1.0. And right now when I press here, you can see that I have 3 dots below my clip. This is my 3 keyframes that I have just created. The first one is starting from 1.0, it's going to 1.8 from the second one, and from the second one until the third one is going back to 1.0. As you can see, it is slowly zooming in until 1.8, and now it's zooming out until 1.0 at the end. You can make this thing go faster if your keyframes are closer to each other, or make it even slower if they are far away from each other. This is how the keyframes are working. You can press this icon right here to reset everything and delete all the keyframes that you have just made. When I play it through, you can see that right now I'm not having any keyframes and the video footage runs without any changes. Now we're gonna move off to the Fusion page. This is maybe one of the most frustrating pages in DaVinci Resolve for the DaVinci Resolve users. This is a place where you can make more advanced effects in DaVinci Resolve, some motion graphics and so on. What you're seeing down here is your media in and media out, which are connected together, and they're located in the nodes panel. And this nodes panel is like the timeline in the edit page, but not as much as simple as the edit tab. In here you can add some other nodes by pressing Ctrl space, and it's gonna open a menu with a search bar, which you can use to search for any type of effect that you want to add. In my case, I'm just gonna add something very simple because I don't want to waste your time in here, because it takes a lot of time to master the Fusion page. I'm gonna select the vortex and then click on add, and now it's gonna be added in between my media in and out. When I highlight my vortex effect, I can go again in the inspector and I can increase and decrease the size of that vortex. In here I can also set the keyframes. As you can see, I have diamonds beside it, and I also can change the position of that vortex. As you can see on the top side, I'm having 2 screens, which are from the left and right viewer. You can enable and disable the 2 screens and switch it to one by pressing this icon. For this example, I'm gonna keep 2 screens. So how you can use these 2 screens is that you can go to media out and you can see that there are 2 slots. Also there are 2 slots in the media in. And when I go back to media out, I can see that my second slot is filled. That means that this one, media out, is gonna be displayed on my right viewer screen. Now I'm going to my media in and I can see that nothing is selected, and when I press 1, it's now visible on the left side, and my media out is visible on the right side. When I play it through, you can see that everything on the left side is without any changes, the default footage, and on my right side I can see the media out, which is the end result, and I can see the changes that I have applied in the Fusion tab. And that's why I really recommend you using 2 screens in DaVinci Resolve, so that you can keep track of all the changes that you're making in the end result. Now we're moving on with the next tab, which is the color tab. Mainly this tab is the most powerful tool that DaVinci Resolve is having. And this is the color correction. You can apply any color changes. Here on the right side you can see your nodes, just like they're in the Fusion tab, but in this one they're on the top right. In the middle of the screen you're seeing again the preview of your footage, and in here you can increase, decrease the shadow. For example, you can adjust the highlights, the saturation, the hue, the mixing, the color booster, the temperature, and other things. Everything that is about color. Also in here you can make a mask, you can add effects on the mask and isolate other parts of the video. But I'm not gonna go in details, I'm just gonna show you the most fundamental things that you need to know just to get started with DaVinci Resolve. In here, DaVinci Resolve is also having some presets that you can use if you're not familiar on how you should set up your tones on your video. You can go on the bottom left where it says slots and you can select one of the folders that you're having right there. It is having presets. The first folder is something I just customly made and you can just drag it and drop it over your footage and it will be applied. And that's just basically it for the LUTs. In here also, if you made a mistake, you can press Ctrl Z to undo your last steps. And now let's go to our next step, which is the audio tab. From this tab you can make a voiceover like I'm doing right now. I'll show you how you can do that as well in a minute. On the top right side you can see your preview. As you record your voiceover or you do some changes on the audio, you can preview what you're having right now at the moment. You can take it down, you can leave it to a next screen if you're having a second one. In here you can also adjust, just like in the edit tab, the height of your waveforms. And right now this is audio channel number 1, and if you right click you can change the audio channel style. Usually I'm recording everything on mono, so I can right click here, I can change track type to, and I can select either mono or stereo. And in my case I'm selecting always mono. By right clicking on the audio channel you can also change the color of that audio channel. I can pick orange for this one. That way you can organize your work better and have a clear look of what you're working with. I'm going to the edit tab and now it's orange there as well. And you can change the color of your audio and video files in the edit tab as well. If you want to create other audio channels, you can right click, then you can click add track and you can pick mono or stereo. I'm gonna expand the height of that one as well. Double click on audio number 2 and I'm gonna select, that way I can rename the audio channel. I'm gonna type there voice, since I'm gonna use this audio channel for my voiceover. Also, I'm gonna go to audio channel number 1, I'm gonna double click on the name and I'm gonna rename it background, since I'm gonna use this for background music. And also you can change the color of your other tracks. I'm gonna change this color track to blue. That way I will know that the blue is my voice and the background music is gonna be the orange. Now I'm gonna highlight audio track number 2, which is my voice, which you can see right now. I'm gonna go on the right side and this is the mixer. In the mixer you can add some effects, play with equalizer and input your microphone as well, which I'm gonna be doing right now. I click on input, I select this, which is my microphone, and select patch and I'm closing it. Now my microphone is patched to audio channel number 2. I'm gonna click on R, which is for record, and now I'm ready to start recording my voice. To start recording, just press this dot right here, and as you can see, I'm already recording myself speaking. And when you finish, you can select the stop icon. In here, you can also use the scissors to cut off your audio, or you can use Ctrl B for shortcut of the same tool. On the right side on your channel mixer you have equalizer, which you can double click, and in here you can increase and decrease the frequencies, you can add some gain and other things that is much more complex to explain in the beginner's tutorial. Actually, I'm having a dedicated tutorial on this tab for beginners, so if you want to check it out, make sure you watch the video that I'm gonna leave in the end screen of this one. And now moving on to our final tab, which is the Deliver tab, and this is the tab where we export our project. On the top left we can see that you can fill up your file name. Below that you can browse for your location. You can select the format, the codec, encoder. Also you can set up the resolution, the frame rate and the quality. In here you can also press this plus sign to zoom in your timeline, and then you can adjust what you want to be exported. Right now I'm pulling the corners of this upper part of the timeline, and I can select also entire timeline, and now all of it is gonna be highlighted. That means all of it is gonna be exported. Or if you just want to export the first part of that, you can just highlight the first part and then it will be ready for export. In this case I want to export everything, so I'm pressing this add to render queue. On the top right I can see that it's there, so in order to render it I just need to render it and press render all. Now it's gonna take a few seconds until it's gonna be rendered, and when it's ready I can right click, open file location, and I can preview my project. And that's a basic beginner guide in DaVinci Resolve. I hope you liked the video. If you want to check the Fairlight video that I have just told you I have it, you can check it right here. I'm showing there all the basics that you need to know for Fairlight app. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.